Okay, we got everybody? So show of hands, how many people have any sort of photo background right now? All right, how many people are reporter trained people, editors, no photo background?
I have no photo background, but I can certainly tell you a lot of my students from the university don't know how to take photos.
Well, it's part of the joy of consolidated media in that everyone's like, here, take a camera. It's also one of the most annoying things in the world that everybody now thinks that because Medium and Substack exist, they're all reporters, just like everybody's got Instagram and now everyone's a photojournalist. And if you've ever had to sit through the torture of looking at someone else's vacation photos, you know that some people aren't very good at it. So today we're going to talk a little bit, we're doing a bit of a balance because we asked what the demographic of the room is going to be. And at first they said all reporters. I was like, so nobody has photo training. And then 50% of the room has photo training. So this will probably be a little bit of review. As everyone always asks, like, is this presentation going to be made available afterwards? Yes, that's why some of the type is so small. So I'll just send you a PDF. You guys can take this, share it around your newsrooms, please. I would love that. And thank you for tolerating my faithful assistant here. He will probably be sound asleep for the entire presentation. So if you cannot hear me, please let me know. I usually tend to talk very loudly, and I believe that there might be some sort of projection device around here, but I will talk as loud and probably fast as possible. So if you need me to slow down, let me know. I am one of those people that listens to audiobooks on tape at like 1.5 speed because it's just too slow if not. So I tend to be a little bit there. So what we're going to do today is we're going to talk about making better photographs. And this is really just some of the like fundamental basics of like getting your pictures back up to what some of the editors might be looking for. And especially because we now are very blessed with these little things in our pockets that are always there. So it's nice to have it there, but at the same time, they can take really, really bad photos. And there's certain things that happen on a cell phone, especially if that's the only thing that you're getting. Oh, I forgot to ask. How many people are given like actual cameras to work with versus cell phones? Oh, wow, that's a pretty good deal.
Sometimes.
Is somebody getting a phone call? It's okay. I just hear someone's phone going off. And, oh, okay, great. I was like, does anybody have a breaking news happening? So there's certain things that we work with a lot of nonprofits as well with our organization. I'll tell you a bit about who we are in a second. But, you know, there's certain things that the newer the camera is, the better the lenses are going to be, the better the file sizes are going to be. They're also going to be jumbo gigantic sometimes. Like it's crazy. Everyone's got data issues now, storage issues, because you've got like 12,000 images. And typically some of the things that happen with that we will sort of touch on is like, we're not going to talk about the actual workflow process, but backing all those pictures up is really important. Back in the days of dinosaurs, for you two who just graduated, there was this huge room in every newsroom that was your negative filing cabinets, and they were like floor to ceiling, and they would have all these little things that you could go through and find all the original negatives. Now everyone's like, I think I have it on my phone, and then all of a sudden, oh my God, I don't know what happened. I dropped my phone in a toilet. Now I can't find any of the last 2 months of the work that I just did. So I would say the one thing to just think about when you're using one of these is that and I will tell you, this is something that I learned from Erin Risby, who is one of our instructors, who every time she's a wedding and portrait photographer, and she does like commercial work out east. And every time at the last workshop that she taught at, people be like, well, can you take a picture for us? She'd be like, yep. And then she got mine up and she's like, what is on your phone? Like, oh my God. She's like, I need an alcohol swab. So I highly recommend, if you are going to be using this tool to document your communities, doing just the sort of, gut check that everybody who's got the really nice cameras with, you always have a little bit of a lens cloth. You've got, all of your elements are clean. You're fully charged up. If you're downloading your stuff to like the Google Cloud every once in a while, take that off of the cloud and back it up onto a hard drive as well. Make sure that you're just using this just the same way that these guys would be using their big, nice, lovely cameras. And Now I have oh my God, sorry. I've like completely changed my whole thing. No, I don't want to customize my home screen, jeez. So that's the workflow side of it. Now we're just going to talk about composition and some of like the fundamental elements that make really nice pictures that can go into the media. So I will give you the very short version of who I am and who I'm representing today. So I am the co-founder of Momenta Workshops and Momenta Group, actually. So we have two divisions. One is Momenta Workshops. We do training programs around the world teaching people documentary visual storytelling. And when I say people, we don't only work with professionals. We work with nonprofits. We have a lot of lawyers. So for the legal team in the back, we have a lot of lawyers. They love photography. We have people from all walks of life who come, and you get to learn with amazing instructors like Thomas Patterson back there. And we do predominantly, we have two separate programs. We do business skills, especially business skills for journalists, and we do a lot of business programming, understand marketing to nonprofits as clients in particular, marketing to regular clients, and then we also have our visual training program. So that includes nonprofit photography, travel documentary photography, and then we have things that are called the select trips, which are usually founders workshops where we go to like really cool places and do really fun stuff. But it's all documentary photojournalism for the most part. And then we have our creative service division. So that is the division that does actual visual media and consulting for nonprofits, government agencies, and corporations. So Wildfire is our nonprofit division that we started right before the pandemic. Good times. Great time to do anything. It's cool. We started Momenta Group in 2008, right at the start of the recession. So we just really like punishment, I guess. And my husband is the president of the organization, and this is part of what we do, which is we reach out to organizations and we try to help nonprofit organizations and documentary storytellers to get their message out there. And how do you do better visual storytelling? How do you grant write and fundraise for it? We have for the nonprofit media people, we have something called the Spark program, this is sort of an outreach of it. And we teach fundraising for nonprofit media. So there is a wealth of information on the blog on Wildfire Media, and you can go to wildfire-media.org and find it. And there's a funding dictionary. There are Spark tips for how to do fundraising. And then we also have something called Spark cohorts, where you can meet and have direct mentoring on fundraising for a 6-month time period with the experts that work with us at Wildfire. So that's who they are. I'm going to turn the lights off right now. Just so that you guys can see the screen better. Can everybody kind of see a little bit? I know, I did not realize that this was going to be so dark in this room. But so a little bit about me. Again, you guys are going to get a copy of this. My name is Jamie Rose. I started doing photojournalism, oh my God, like so long ago. It's hard. I can't even do math. Which, by the way, let's all just talk about ChatGPT for a second, shall we? I use ChatGPT to help me with math because I'm terrible with it. And the other day I had it help me total up a whole bunch of hours of stuff that we were doing. And just for giggles, it like came up with 55. And I was like, I'm just gonna test this out on the calculator really fast. And I went back and I was like, how come I'm getting 57? And it's like, well, let's see. And it goes through this whole thing. Wow, thanks for catching my mistake. It is 57. And I was like, are you kidding me right now? Like, this is the only thing I need you for. You have one job to do. So yeah, ChatGPT hallucinates even with math. But I've been doing photography for a really long time. I was a press corps photojournalist back in Washington, D.C. I worked at Capitol Hill in the White House for the most part of my career. And I started to transition to nonprofit photography. I always wanted to do that, but back in the early aughts, it wasn't really a thing. It was just a lot of grip and grins and stage photography. So thanks to the dawn of the internet and people started to realize that they really do care about nonprofit pictures, they started hiring editors and former photojournalists who were editors for these organizations and realized, wow, visual media is actually very important. And so for the end of my career, I transitioned to do mostly nonprofit work, and I still did a little bit of photojournalism when like major events would happen, like Carter died or something like that. But I went around the world. I got to do all that. And then we started Momenta in 2008. And we've been doing that ever since. If you want to find me, I'm on LinkedIn. I also have a blog that's called Jamie's List that is a job grant resource opportunity for journalists. It has nothing to do with me. Like there's no like, today I had for breakfast. No, it's just a blog that's a service blog for all of you guys so that you can find jobs and opportunities that are out there in the world. So today, this is a content slide that we won't really go over. These are just some of the things that are going to be in the presentation that you guys are going to see, but we're going to talk about how we can actually look at upping the game a little bit with your visual media. So starting out, it really doesn't matter what tool you're using. If you're using a cell phone, if you are using a regular camera, you really need to understand that the tool is not the most important thing. The thing happening in front of your camera is. And what you need to know, first of all, is you have to know your audience. You've got to understand who you're trying to talk to and how you're going to communicate visually what you usually would be communicating written. And how can you do that in the most effective and elegant manner? You also need to understand the use. So we put this picture up here. This is a picture from all of the media that you're going to see as media that was created during our workshop program. So these are all done by aspiring photographers. Some of them had no experience whatsoever. But we use this picture as an example. The photographer went out and shot an entire story with the SPCA in black and white. It's a gorgeous story. It's absolutely beautiful. Like really high contrast, lovely thing. The SPCA got the package of work. Now, mind you, everybody's volunteering on these workshops, and they were like, oh, okay, did you do any color? He was like, no, I didn't. And that didn't really effectively work for them because they could use it on their Instagram and stuff like that, but when it comes to marketing and when it comes to publications and putting things out there, they really needed color. So not only do you need to understand your audience, you need to understand the use. We also need to talk a little bit about limitations. There are certain things that these cameras can do and they can do great. And if you really practice and really practice, not just practice taking pictures of like the cool stuff that you're documenting, but using that camera and really understanding every single thing that you can and cannot do with it, you'll start to understand the use case. These guys are great in pure, wonderful, great light. They're not so great in low light. And sometimes people will be like, well, I'm just going to up that brightness factor. And then next thing you know, everything gets pixelated. They're not great at cropping in. You know, blowing up to a huge poster size isn't always the best thing. So even, to be honest, the like older point and shoot cameras you can get on eBay for like $300 are going to give you a lot more pixel size and quality. And this is the funny thing, like, I don't know, Tom, does this happen to you all the time? Like, you'd be carrying around these like huge like Leicas and Nikons and, you know, everything like that. And somebody'd be like, so what's the pixel size on that? And I'd always be like, I have no idea. Like, I don't know, because that's not what makes the quality. The quality can be the lens you're getting. It's the size of the pixels themselves and the quality of the light that's coming into them and all this other super nerdy stuff that you can go to YouTube University and learn all about. But with these guys, they can absorb a lot of light and they can sometimes go really, really bright, but when you actually pull them up on a screen, they look like garbage. So you need to make sure that you understand the limitations of your phone. And then we also have to make sure that just the basics are understanding the objective and being true to the narrative that's going on. There's a handful of things that you're taught in photojournalism school. First one always is like, you are not the story. You are not the person who's manipulating the scene. You know, professional photojournalists learn the phrase and like say it in their sleep, like, just act like I'm not here. And you're trying constantly to let everything happen around you candidly. Now, obviously that doesn't work because you are an obtrusive presence, and we can talk all about Susan Sontag's On Photography at lunch if you want to, why all photography is a lie or whatever. But like, the fact of the matter is, yes, you are going to be changing the environment, but how can you make sure that you're still actively getting the images that you need in the most basic way to begin with, that are going to effectively give you what you need to know? So usability is key, obviously. Everyone, it is so much easier, yes, to hold a camera like this, but vertical images are very difficult to use for the most part. And, you know, when you look through whole portfolios of, like, you know, professional photojournalists, come on in, you guys, you can come to the front. It's kind of hard. Vertical video, first of all, is just so painful, but that's fine. We can all agree that Instagram is the worst and has changed everything for the worst, and that's why we all have vertical video. And for the most part, this is going to give you a lot more of your scene as well. This is going to give you a lot more control. If we're holding it horizontally, you have a lot more usable format, especially with the way that most pages are laid out, especially with the way that most websites are laid out. Like right now, we're working on this huge website for a client, and like my brain is dying because we're looking through thousands of images. Everything is vertical. Their whole website has big hero pictures on the top. We need big, wide horizontals for that. You can't take a vertical cell phone picture, stretch it out like that, and hope that it's going to be good. So making sure that we're going horizontal, big. Leave room in the frame to give a sense of place. So yes, you want to watch your edges. You want to make sure it's there. But a lot of people feel really comfortable being about like 5 feet away from their subjects. And so they'll just be like here, here, here. But if I want to show, like if I'm with the Roundhouse Foundation right now and I want to show like this attendance was really great, I want to show the whole room. I want to show that it is, you know, we've got a bunch of people. We have very few empty chairs. Everybody's here. We want to show that there's an entire sense of place when we're going in to show someone. So I'm going to use the Latino festival that she was talking about. Sure, we need a really cute kid getting their face painted right here. We also need a huge wide angle of the whole park. Like, look, there's 5,000 people here today. So you need both of those to give you that sense of place. And then you need candid moments. And that requires taking more than one shot. That's the other thing about this that drives me bananas, is everyone one and dones it. Like, that's good. And then when you go home and you zoom in, you're like, oh shit, everybody's eyes are closed. And you only took one. So we need to make sure that as you are going through some of these basics, we've got the ability to get a bit of visual variety. We need to be able to show, you know, some of these basic examples that are just really nice pictures that can be used for the newspaper. They can be used for anything. Again, you guys are going to get a copy of this presentation. You'll be able to see these nice and high res on your screen. But, you know, some of the important things about the narrative environment too is we need to get down on certain people's angles. We're going to talk about that in a minute, but a couple of things I want to point out about this. Nice clean white wall. Your pagination team will love you for this. Welcome to the fair. And then we've got somewhere to put text around there. If we're just up on everyone's faces all the time, filling the frame, we need to be able to make sure that there is a bit of visual variety for that. One of the reasons why I wanted to talk about this one in particular is I like stuff coming in and out of the frame. It doesn't have to be perfect. Don't try to make everything perfect. You can have an arm coming in, because this looks like a teacher's arm. This is an adult hand coming into the kids. So giving the sense of place also means just being able to use some of the elements that are there for you. So let's talk about lighting for impact. Now, first of all, brightest is not always best. In fact, it's really awful for those of you guys who had to take like the portrait of the new business owner and they're standing outside of their, like, in the sunshine. The light itself is the most important part of photography. It's painting with light, all that good stuff. But what we really need to talk about is how do we find interesting light? Right now, if I were to take a photograph of you guys, the only thing that my camera is going to see is this big bright light coming in behind you, so everybody would be in shade. And if you were to take a photograph of me right now, I'm getting hit with this nice, super bright light from the screen. but it might not necessarily be the easiest picture to take because we also have this huge bright thing behind us. But when you're looking at light, one of the things that, we tell people early on in the workshops is like light at your back. It's the easiest way for new people to learn on how to do lighting, because the light right now is at your back, which means your whole face is in shade. But the second I start to come over here and I take this photograph, these guys have gorgeous light. It's just filtering in. Light is like water. Think about water from a garden hose.
So light at the photographer's back.
Light at your back, because the light will spill over you and go on to your subject. So if you find yourself shooting straight in, unless you're trying to get some kind of silhouette, which is always lovely. We do love silhouettes. They're great. The layout teams love them too. But we need to make sure that you're being observant about where the light is coming from. And so if the light is at your back, typically that means it's going to hit your subject in the front. It's going to hit whatever's in front of you, and it's going to allow you a little bit of contrast. Being steady, holding the camera steady, especially for those of you guys who are having to shoot video. Shaky cam video makes me nauseous. Like literally, I just watched this really great tutorial on YouTube, and the guy was like, okay, so let me tell you about how I set up this whole studio place, whatever. And I was like, oh my God, I'm so gonna barf. Like I need to put you on slow motion or something, because it was just so shaky. So you also wanna make sure that when you're looking at light, you're looking at the margins and where the light is coming from. When we look at color as a contrast, obviously color is like the most arresting, wonderful thing about photography. It can be. Obviously, the moment is the most important thing, but we also want to use it as a tool. So in this case, this is a really dark classroom full of people with really dark skin, and it's really hard to have dark background in the classrooms, and then you've got a couple of light sources coming in. So you as a photographer have the ability to move and go around a room and pick your subjects, unless she's the only subject that we're supposed to be photographing today because she is the Olympian who's going to college that we need to document for the day. Unless you're in that situation, you want to find the best light for the best pictures. And that's why sometimes photographers and reporters don't get along. Because then a reporter will be like, did you interview that person over there? And we're like, no, they were in terrible light. They're like, we need a picture of them anyway, because I just got a quote from them. And we're like, fine. So make sure that you're looking for the light and you're following the light. And when we look at some of the ways that you can use light, I mean, this beautiful butter that is coming in from the stained glass window hitting the woman cleaning the church. In this particular case, this is the only light source, and sometimes the light doesn't have to be so bright. Remember, especially if you are shooting with good gear, that's the beauty and the pain in the butt about these gorgeous new cameras is you can make any room look like it was bright daylight. You could make it right now look like that, because you could just bump your ISO up to 37,000 and it would, but why? Let it go dark. Let it look gloomy. Let it look interesting. Let the light be the thing that hits you. In this case, again, the light is at the subject's back here, so they're silhouetted, but it hits the bubbles in this beautiful way. We have silhouettes, which can be really nice, and you want silhouettes. They give you a little bit of visual variety. Looking for where the light is falling on people is what you want to start thinking about before you start evaluating your whole scene. Yes?
How about shooting in RAW so you have more choice in terms of dynamic range?
If you're shooting with a camera that has RAW, for sure. I mean, bigger is definitely always better to work with. And now, too, we have such beautiful, lovely software, too, that can really help with that. I would say shooting on the smallest JPEG. I know a lot of people that are like, I only shoot JPEG. RAW is just a big pain in the butt. I don't agree with that, no. I think you should be shooting in RAW. Just don't do RAW plus JPEG, because then you have 10 times the amount of storage that for no reason.
Could you explain what RAW is?
So RAW is a file format. So there's different kinds of RAWs that come, and what that means is that you're taking this huge chunky file that can go into very specific software. So you would need something like Camera One or any Adobe products and things like that. RAW is great, except anybody who's ever been in wedding photography world, brides are like, I'd like the RAWs. And you're like, what are you going to do with them? Do you have a Photoshop? And they're like, what? No. Why? Do I need that? Like, yes, that's what you need to process RAWs. And so typically, if you're shooting in RAW, you just have a really huge file. Like some RAW files are like 98 megabytes large. They're really big. JPEGs now can be very large, like some of the better cameras. But if you've got an older camera that doesn't have like the pixel size and megapixels and things like that, then you might want to do a RAW and then open it up into Adobe. And there's a lot of tutorials on how to use RAW pictures and what that means. But your cameras are already taking RAWs technically, right? Like, aren't they?
You
Yeah, but
have to set them up to take RAW.
You have to set them up to take RAW.
You can just think of RAW as like undeveloped film.
Yeah, RAW is like undeveloped film. You haven't run it through a processor. You haven't run it through the darkroom lab, that type of thing.
It gives you the ability to like lower the highlights or raise the shadows and that sort of thing.
Yeah, your pixels just have a lot more depth to them when you're doing it with RAW, and you can use the software to manipulate that accordingly. But if you're only using a cell phone, you're probably going to want to make sure that it's set for the largest size that you have, and then that also works with whatever your editing team needs when you send those pictures to them, or what the web designer needs for those of you guys that are a digital publication and you want to make sure you're using them. Because most websites are compressing those pictures down anyway. So you can't put like a 1,000, like you can't put a 100 megabyte size file in the middle of a website or it won't load. So they're rezzing it down, as they say. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about composition. There's layering. I love looking at frames that have different layers to them. We're also looking for framing, background, details. Like these are kind of the core parts of composition that you should really think about when you are visually creating an arrangement of elements that people should see. So in this case, we've got our foreground is this cute little girl who's playing with her mom. And in the background, this is in Colombia, and in the background is a very lovely picture of Sofia Vergara in all of her glory. And it adds this element of whimsy and fun, and it's still, PG for your pages that you might need. But you also want to make sure that, you don't have to put every subject smack in the middle of the frame. When we're looking at composition, having somebody being a little bit off to the side. When we're looking at the rule of thirds and different ways that you can set up, having a little bit of empty space in here works. Sometimes when we're looking at details, if you are going out, and especially in agriculture and or construction, like I love going to shoot farms because the details are always so much fun. And you can get just a detail of this, but we still have the logo here of this guy's shirt, so we know where we are, but we still have this nice detail that works in combination. Combinations are always what, journalists are thinking about. This is like the hardest thing to explain to people who just come into photography because I just love it, and I do it because I love it. And then when you go to the layout people, and they're like, we need more variety to actually put a picture page together. And everyone else who's in journalism is like, yeah, a picture page is like the big goal. I want that. I want to be able to have a lot of different things. Framing is another really important part of this. When you can frame your subject so that they are in an empty environment, that they can get a little bit of breathing room, we also get to the point where we can understand what is in the frame, but we can also see our subject really well. So a couple of other things. Look for your wide angles. Look for your telephoto where you can stack elements. So in this case, we've got this like construction crew, but we've got a whole fence in front of them. They're adding a compositional element because we have a bit of a telephoto. Now remember too, when you're using a cell phone, you can zoom in. And it's surprising, like I have to say, with the right light and the right lighting conditions, I can zoom in. And I took a picture of a bumblebee on my garden the other day, and I was like, oh my God. This is actually insanely sharp. But not all cell phones and not all cameras are created equal. So you have to make certain that you test that out first. If you want to go get a nice detail or you want to zoom in on a frame, in a lot of cases, and this happens with professionals who are using all those crazy gear and those big long lenses, sometimes the best telephoto you have are your feet. So just move your feet and get closer to the subject instead of being like, I'm good. I've got it. I'm just going to zoom in and we'll be fine because your phone might not actually be able to take it. Openers and closers are really nice, especially if you're putting together a picture package or a slideshow. You want something that brings you into the scene. And you want someone who understands that every story has a beginning, a middle, and end. How many of you guys have seen the movie Titanic? Cool. I'm not going to ruin it for you if I tell the story. But if I were to sit down with you and be like, so I went to go see this movie Titanic. Yeah, what's it about? Oh my God, this lady Rose throws a necklace off the edge of a boat. Oh, well, she was in like 1912, she got on the Titanic. And then she met this guy, and then there's this other guy, and then the boat sank. Oh, but wait, he gave her the necklace because they were supposed to be engaged, and then she threw it off the edge of the boat because she didn't want it anymore, and then she died in her sleep. Oh, but wait, yeah, the necklace was actually, like, nobody would understand that story. And you guys, if you were writing a review, I went to the theater to go see James Cameron's Titanic, the award-winning thing. It's celebrating its 30-year anniversary. The story begins with Rose, a young girl who's getting on the Titanic, and Leonardo DiCaprio is there. That's how you would tell the story for the news article. Your photographs should be the same way. We have pictures. Thank you so much for talking about an actual news story. We're using the Latin Festival again. So I want pictures of the volunteers setting everything up in the morning. We want pictures of the actual overall of here's how many people actually showed up today. I wouldn't want a picture of that very particular focused fair to have it be like the corn dog vendor and the candy apple guy that are from like rotating fairs that just go everywhere. I want somebody who's making something that looks like some sort of Latino food that is what we are celebrating today. So you want to be able to show, and then, maybe your closer is a little kid who got a big balloon and they've got a little bag that says the festival name on it and they're walking away with their parents, and that's our opener, middle, and closer. That tells everybody what this thing was all about. Your photos should match your writing. And don't forget about portraits. Now, portraits are one of those things where you can do them very nicely. You can do them in a way that they aren't necessarily looking like they're staged. You can just make sure that if you see somebody standing there, be like, oh, you can pause for a portrait. This is the only time in photojournalism that you are allowed to actually control and manipulate a scene. First of all, reporters, you should know this, but I'm just going to say this in case you don't. You're not allowed to move coffee cups. You're not allowed to tell people where to stand. You're not allowed, all that stuff, that's out of the picture. You have to just let it happen in front of you. Ugly cups and all. I will never forget, we had to shoot this conference one time. This is like a PR thing, but I got a call from the photographer, and he's like, you're not going to believe what is happening right now. And I was like, what's that? He was like, there's a coffee shop outside of all of the conference rooms where we have to photograph the panels. I was like, oh, yeah? He was like, yeah, just going to send you a quick shot from the back of my camera. The coffee shop had bright pink, like neon pink cups, and every single presenter had them all across. So it's just like this like glowing pink mess on the dais. And I was like, oh, that sucks. And there's nothing you can do about it because we can't change it and the thing. So you just have to deal with all that stuff that's in there. But always be working. Like as you are walking in and out of a place, if you see suddenly that there's this really nice looking person, you can be like, hey, I would like to make a portrait of you before I go. Let's put you in a really cool environment. And then just let them be natural. You can let them laugh. Everybody doesn't have to be looking at the camera. Everybody doesn't have to be posed all the time. Let them be comfortable. And use compositional elements as you can. Use things that will give you storytelling elements, is what we say in the photojournalism. You want a storytelling element. These bright green helmets that have the logo of the nonprofit right on there is really nice. We get a little subtle moment of him helping her put it on her head, but we can also get these big, wide compositions where they're looking around a corner. We don't exactly know what's going on. When you're also moving with your composition, you can use the elements of the frame. I think that this vertical is so much better than being right up on everybody who's all like clustered around the, teaching table. Now we've got a little bit of perspective. We've got a little bit of empty space to work with. So there's a lot of different ways that you can approach composition, but it all takes patience. And moments elegantly evolve. Like, you can find lovely moments as long as you stick with it. Like the whole machine gun drive-by thing, like, okay, I've got the story that I'm working on and I'm just gonna take a whole bunch of pictures and I think I'm good. Like, that's not gonna let a moment evolve naturally. They will come to you and you can start to see things using observe, orient, decide, act. This is actually I believe it's a military assessment. When they go into a situation and nobody knows what's going on, they observe, orient, decide, and then you act. And it's called an OODA loop. And so what you want to do is get in the middle of your OODA loop and say, okay, before I go in and just start photographing everything, I'm just going to observe the situation. I'm going to see what's going on. I'm going to make sure that I know what the environment is like. And then when you use that patience, you can start to be creative. You can start to put your camera straight on the ground. Now, if somebody were to take a photograph of me teaching right now, and I would say, okay, great, thanks. Everybody get a picture. The thing about this particular class today that is a little bit interesting is curled up under the desk. Now, you don't get that if you're just zoomed in on somebody's face, backing up a little bit and showing that there's this tiny little adorable dog. I don't know, biased, but tiny little adorable dog under here who's also having all of this stuff going on in the background. Those are the elements that when you observe and you orient yourself to the room, you can actually see, okay, maybe I want to get a picture of that. Maybe I want to get a picture of some of the things that make this a little bit more unique. So you are both the participant and the observer. So be seen, be comfortable, be mindful. You are discreetly and respectfully observing your environment when you're going out to photograph new stuff. Like I don't know about anybody else, but like one of the things that drives me absolutely bug nuts is watching movies and how they portray the photographers in the media. I'm sure the reporters are the same way. Like everybody just screaming and bumbling around each other and pressing up against people, and just like it doesn't always happen like that. I mean, sure, sometimes it's chaotic or whatever, but for the most part, you're supposed to go in and be observing. And yes, you are a participant because you're there, but you also want to be mindful of not being in everybody's way. You need to be comfortable and you need to have a sense of ease about you, for sure. One of the ways that really helps in that regard is to have really comfortable gear and a really comfortable setup that you're good with, even if it is your phone. So like these pants would be terrible for me to be out like shooting with a phone because well, first of all, women, our pockets don't actually hold our phones anyway. But so this thing would be falling out all the time. Then I would probably need to have a bag if I'm actually recording at the same time. Then I've got to have a recorder in this hand. I got to have my phone in this hand. The last thing in the world I need is anything right here. And you've seen those photographers, right? Especially, we're just going to throw Liam and the videographers under the bus. Like, they'll come in, they've got all their gear, and they're just huge. And they're knocking stuff over. It's like, oh, excuse me, sorry. Oh, I just dropped something, whatever. Like, be lithe, be slim. Make sure that you are not disrupting the scene that you're trying to make a picture of. If you cannot get down on the ground and back up without readjusting everything, then you're probably going to make a scene, which means then everybody in the room is going to start looking at you. And that's not you observing, and that is you participating. And so you want to follow your attention too. If you see certain things that are around and you want to make certain that they are going to be documented, like later on, you could just keep that in your visual memory. I want to go back to that wall. I want to go back to that wall and get that picture. But the thing that I really love about this is that person's not staring at the camera. They're looking up. And it's very angelic, and I like it because it's a little bit of something that you see on your walk-in and then you grab somebody later and you get. You want to seek candid moments. You want to go and find the moments that are delicate and lovely and that you're not a part of. And you want them to show a little bit of the scene, of course. We obviously have, everybody's looking down here. So that makes everybody wonder, what are they looking at? That's where they go to the caption, which is important. So you should be getting caption information on your people as well. And you can spend all day trying to be to stay discreetly observant, but when one accident happens and you're fumbling and you flip over somebody's desk, like you've ruined this lovely moment. So if you see something like that, get in on it, but let everybody just not feel like you're hardening in on them and making them feel uncomfortable. Likewise, you can back off, let the scene evolve around you, and you can find these lovely little delicate moments. I mean, this is a nice picture, but then we've got this teeny tiny little ballerina in this window over here. So now we are working with framing. We're working with rule of thirds. We're working with storytelling elements. We have a whole lot of things going on, and nobody has to be staring at the camera. So embrace the understated, understanding the room too. If you get into a kid, like kids are the worst sometimes to photograph because they all want to look at you all the time. And especially with journalism, if I have to go in and cover like a classroom, I go to the teacher first and I say, okay, hi, is it okay if I make a little announcement before we get started? And they'll be like, okay, especially little kids. One thing about little kids, junior high and down, they respond really well to authority. And they understand consequences, but they also really like new, exciting things. And so what you want to say to them is, okay, everybody, you wouldn't say my name is Jamie, but I would say, my name is Jamie. I'm going to ask all of you to act like I'm not here. If I see you looking at the camera, I will not take a picture of you, okay? And this is Mrs. Smith, and she is the one who's in charge, and she will kick me out of here if you guys don't behave. Is everybody okay with that? And the best thing happened one time where this one girl, like I'm in this classroom and I'm like shooting, and all of a sudden I hear this one girl like literally reach over, smack her friend and go, she won't take a picture of you if you're looking at her. And I was like, didn't understand the disruption part, understood the first rule. All right, that's fine. And so making sure that you are in the room and you know when to duck, you know when to get out of the way. You're not like falling off of a boat as you're trying to photograph guys on the coast. And then they're like, now we have to rescue them because you are in the scene, but you're in control of yourself in the scene as well. Yes?
Yeah, I would have cropped out the door to focus on the people. What do you think of that?
No, I would not have. I love the balance of it. And I like the fact that it's a salon too, and that we kind of know that we're in a studio and that they're spying on something behind a door. I feel like gives it a bit of that element of sort of like quiet, shh, what are we looking at?
Well, there's two pictures there too.
Yeah, there's frames within frames for sure. Okay, the last thing. Here's the thing that drives me absolutely bananas, especially for those of you guys who are working with nonprofits right now. Hand signals mean very different things in very different countries. This does not mean the same thing in England that it does over here. And so, do you guys know what this means in England? Do you know why this means in England? So if you see people at soccer matches doing this means fuck you. You can blurt that out you can totally, actually, it's a journalism conference. I mean, everybody expects that. But yes, this does not mean the same thing as peace sign over here. And it drives me absolutely bananas when I see people taking group shots, especially with kids, because kids are awkward. They don't know what to do with their body in portraits. And, a lot of times other human beings don't as well. And so if the kids are all flashing different hand signals yes, technically means love, I think, everywhere. But who knows what that necessarily means in this context. So make sure that the hand signals are out of your pictures. You do not want to cause like an international incident with somebody saying or throwing a hand sign that you don't actually know what it means. And I am definitely not cool enough to know what all this stuff means. So even with the internet. Now, the last thing we're going to talk about is like a documentary picture package. So this is a very simple Habitat for Humanity, but this combines all the elements that we've been talking about storytelling wise. Now, not everybody's got a drone, although I feel like today everybody has a drone. There's like drones hovering around my neighborhood watching us walk, and I'm like creepy and weird. But if you can get your hands on a drone, especially if you're doing something really cool, like photographing a big festival or something like that, and your newspaper will allow it, or if you have somebody, especially if you're working in nonprofit media, who's on the board, who just nerds out over that kind of stuff, grab them and get those drone pictures. It's very cool to see the habitat houses going up. But then again, we've got our telephoto zoomed in picture. We've got two young girls using power tools. It's kind of like throwing out gender roles in a really cool way, and I love it. We've got this nice portrait of this guy, but he's behind this nice clean wall. So in the terms of, a layout, this is really great. We could be like, everybody, it's coming together. A nice little quote from him there in the layout. We've got this wide angle action shot that's going in. We've got another group of young women using tools. Everybody here, we've got a bit of a tight end. We also have a vertical so that, it's not bad to have verticals. Verticals are good, especially in layouts. We just don't need to have all of them being shot that way. Then we've got a detail of all of the stuff. So is this the greatest documentary picture package ever done? Nope. Is this organization super happy with it because they have a lot of visual variety that they can talk about? Absolutely. So when you start to take all of the different elements, combine them together using that cell phone, you can start to really take your pictures to that next level and start to really think about your composition before you actually snap the picture, however we are snapping cell phones or regular cameras. Okay, so I'm going to send everybody this. If you would like to, I will get everybody's email addresses who would like a copy of the presentation, or I think I can maybe give it to Jody and she can send it to all of you. Either way, this presentation will be available for you at will. If you would like me to send it to you, that's great. Okay, I have officially 10 minutes. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to turn on the lights. Hold on. Is anyone else melting? I'm melting a little bit. Did that work? Ah, there we go. Okay. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to do what we call a photo walkabout for the last 10 minutes. And we're going to use all that stuff that we just talked about. And we're going to go find pictures as we go. So you all have cell phones, so you can practice if you want to. But we're just going to kind of walk you through how a photographer would go through making sure that we could get a picture of the conference somehow. We've got the rural journalism here, so we could take a picture. Now, the thing is that before I even make this picture, I'm just looking at the back of everybody's heads here. So I don't necessarily want to bring my cell phone up, but come. No, I don't have cooties. I don't think I smell. I'm good. Come. Get friendly. So here's the thing. Brent was hidden over in the corner by his slides. Now he's here. So now, if I want to make a picture, I can make sure I'm focused in on Brent, but I also want to get that rural journalism here. The problem with signage, not everybody reads English, so I still have the presenter in the front of the room. Now I don't just have everybody in the back. I have to be quiet because I'm going to piss them off. So what we're also going to look at is that, sometimes you want the action shots of the audience. You want them being like, oh, this is the most fascinating thing I've ever heard. And so what we do is maybe we go this way. Now remember too, one of the things about if you have to take pictures of something on a wall, you need to make sure it's perfectly straight. See how warpy this is getting when I move my phone? So you want to make sure it's there. I've got the people interested in the middle. What I might do is even back up a little bit more just to give myself those edges that we were talking about. And then I make this picture, but I have to make certain this guy's elbow is right in the frame because he's scratching his head. So now I'm like, all right, man, put your hand down. Put your hand down. This is what my internal monologue is like all the time. There we go. Oh my God, yes, don't move. No, your head's back. Okay, I'm gonna go up. Okay, now that's warped out my thing. So this is part of the make lots of pictures, but also make sure that you're actually working with what you have. And we've got the stuff that's the storytelling elements in the background. I'm gonna take one more because I'm pretty certain I'm not straight. Okay, now I am also gonna say this is it. This is the picture right here. We got this cute little moment. He's looking at her. Everything is great. I'm going to wait for you guys to all laugh at how cute the puppy is. There we go. I've got somebody documenting over here. Now, when I look at that picture, now I've got my subject that's right in the middle, but I have all this storytelling that's around the outside showing me name tags. Everybody's at a conference. I've got cameras, everybody. So maybe we could say okay, this is what the journalism conference did during the cell phone photography. We have to go away. They're already going to be coming this way anyway. I'm not manipulating the scene. Everybody's doing it. I'm just saying, give my slow butt a second so that I can get out here and then come. So I'm going to walk outside. I'm going to close this door. Okay, Liam can come. Okay, now come. Now, when I'm photographing everybody walking out too, if I'm hip shooting, even if people are looking at me, I'm hip shooting they're gonna be still looking over the camera. So you can tell everybody to walk outside, but when everybody walks outside, sorry, I'm gonna go back to the picture. Here, actually, let's all take a quick look. This is what you need to be careful of with your cell phone, because sometimes your cell phone is a little bit wider than what you're expecting. So now we've got Malcolm's head in there. Many times people have their feet in the bottom because they're not realizing that the feet's coming in. Anywhere in Central Oregon and the coast, there's dappled light everywhere because we have these gigantic trees, which is great, but sometimes it sucks for photography. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take the portrait environment to us. Now we also wanna have some of those things compositionally that we wanna work with. Like stairs are always a great place to put somebody, especially if they're not comfortable. Hi, Muffin, come here. Yeah, can you sit down? Hi, come here, sit down. Wanna sit? Sit. Sit down. Sit. No, you don't wanna sit? Okay. Here's the thing about dogs, kids, anyone like that. They will not do what you want them to do. So what you need to do is I typically will say, you pose, we'll just let them do what they do around you. So stairs are really good because then people have somewhere to put their body, put their hands. You want to make certain that you're keeping all of these lines nice and even though when you're actually doing it. Again, it's like photographing something on a wall. You can warp it and it's going to look really odd. Now, I wouldn't probably say that this is the perfect place for a portrait because do I have highlights on my face? So what you need to do is get comfortable moving people's bodies around. And now if I lean back, do I still have a little bit? So should I go up a stair to get out of the light? Hi, I'm gonna come closer to you too. What's up?
That's it. Oh, lean back.
Okay, cool. Yep, hot spot on the forehead. Those are the things that the people can't see. So if you're gonna put somebody in this, like, you know, kind of lighting environment, the stuff that's in the back is gonna be a lot brighter. It might just fall away. You wanna make certain that when you are using your cell phone, when you tap on the portrait subject, it'll show that little box, like the facial recognition box. You can do that, but if you tap it, you can make sure that the little sun bulb will come up if you're using an iPhone, and that means that's your lighting that you want. So I usually tap the subject to make sure it doesn't try to get the bright light in the background. Now that bright light might blow out, but sometimes you don't really have a choice because the light is there. So come here. You're being super weird. Hi. Come here. Now, second thing that we should talk about when it comes to the beauty of dogs and kids is that portraits don't have to always be posed, right? Come here. Hi. What? Hi. That's your picture. That's when you let people just do what they do. Kids are great when you set them up for a portrait because in about 5 seconds they completely lose interest and then they're like looking around and they're like poking each other's ears and they're doing all sorts of crazy stuff. So take a minute with your portrait subjects especially and just let them be them. Today, this was a lot of fun. I know that we tried to cram like, I don't know, an entire semester's worth of compositional theory into an hour, but if you have any questions on that presentation, my LinkedIn is there, my email address, I'll put my email address in for you guys, and if you would like a copy of it, just let me know. I will write it down in the room, and good luck with the rest of the thing. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course.